Hello everyone, it's Simmuz here and welcome to a brand new video. While thinking about the upcoming year and the new content that will be released for The Sims 4, I started to ponder about the past years and the packs that have been released and how the community online responded to these DLCs. Something I noticed is that through the years, the Sims team has been releasing some highly fan-requested packs, but most of them have been met with negative criticism. Why does it seem like almost all the packs that the community really fights for end up disappointing? Let's take a dive in the past. The Sims 4 is going to enter its 9th year, and through almost a decade there have been an incredible amount of DLCs that have been published. With more than 50 releases between expansion packs, game packs, stuff packs and now kits that have been released pretty consistently throughout the years, fans are pretty excited to find out and guess what new pack will come out. The Sims community has always been very opinionated, and since The Sims 4 was first released, they have been expressing their wants and dislikes about the game through social media, telling the Sims team what needs to be fixed, what should be added, and what pack concept they would like to see. And the team has picked up some of these ideas and criticism to implement in the game itself, not only to update the game through free updates and fixes, but also to base entire packs concept on the fans' wants. There have been packs that the community expressively requested and the team delivered with varying degrees of success, but the majority of the content that the community requested has also been met with harsh criticism and backlash. Let's start by talking about the most requested packs that also were received overall positively. The first that comes to mind is definitely Seasons. Released in 2018 as the 5th expansion pack for the game, people really enjoy the content it adds. The request for dynamic weather in the game was already strong since the initial release of the base game in 2014, and seeing the request being acknowledged in such an extensive way really sold this pack. The weather has a lot of options, the events and temperatures change according to the world you're in, and it really added a whole new level of depth to the gameplay. Seasons is still today one of the most beloved packs for the game, and most people would agree it's a must-have. Another pack that was highly requested and positively received is Cottage Living. This expansion pack was released in July 2021 after years of players requesting farming in the game. While it might not have hit every request like the addition of horses and farming machinery, the pack was overall well received by the fans, and the farming concept, which was requested and rumored for years, finally came out. An example of a game pack that was requested a lot is Parenthood. While people were hoping for an expansion pack instead, a la Sims 3 Generation, and the amount of content that was released within it wasn't exactly meeting expectation, the players quickly forgave this, since the gameplay added is perfect for families and there's a lot of depth to the pack. These 3 packs, which are highly requested until released and received positive feedback from the community, are definitely the minority. So let's talk about the packs, which concepts was just as popular online but got people mad after release. Dine Out. Dine Out is one of the first game packs that have been released for The Sims 4 since it got launched in 2016. After the addition of stores to the game with Get to Work, the online community was definitely excited to get more lot types that you could own, and the request for a restaurant in the game was at its peak. With the announcement of the pack and the release of the trailers, comments were abuzz with excitement and many were praising the team for listening to the request. With the launch of the pack though, the players' excitement soured quickly. While the pack did deliver what it promised, the amount of bugs and the lag made the experience of owning a restaurant very frustrating for players. And even today, after almost 7 years, the pack is still regarded as an unplayable, buggy mess. Dine Out definitely had all the right ideas for a great bit of gameplay, but it just turned into a recurring joke about how lag and bugs hinder The Sims 4's performance still today. And the backlash definitely impacted how people see this pack, since there is still an ongoing campaign asking for the team to fix this DLC. Cats and Dogs. If you were part of the online Sims community in early 2017, you know how much people wanted pets to be added to the game. The request for animals was strong since the game first released, and with the Sims 3 Pets expansion being a fan favorite, many players wanted and expected a similar entry for The Sims 4. And in November 2017, Cats and Dogs was finally released. While the expansion pack is still regarded as a pretty good addition to the game, many players were disappointed by a couple of major points. Firstly, the lack of horses, which were a staple in The Sims 3's equivalent, and secondly, the inability to control the pets directly. And the nail in a coffin was the release of my first pet sub a couple of months afterwards, which caused a big uproar online because it had many items taken from the Cats and Dogs EP, highlighting the unfinished nature of the pack. As of today, Cats and Dogs isn't a disliked pack by any means, but when you compare the original hype to how much people enjoy it now, it's obvious it didn't meet expectation. Island Living. Island Living is the 7th expansion pack for The Sims 4 and it was released in 2019. At this point of the game's development, the community was really looking for something different, and one of the main requests online was the introduction of water lots. And Island Living introduced exactly that, with a gorgeous world inspired by Polynesia and a new occult type, mermaids. But the hype around the pack died as soon as it was released. The gameplay wasn't up to par, the water lots were restrictive, and the mermaids unfinished. And the backlash wasn't small, with a lot of the community complaining about how shallow and unpolished the expansion pack felt, especially when compared to other expansion packs that were released beforehand. Realm of Magic. Realm of Magic was released in 2019 as the 8th game pack for The Sims 4. This pack came out a couple of years after the Vampire game pack, which was the first occult-focused pack in The Sims 4, and established this game would have separate packs, unlike The Sims 3, which had the Supernatural pack. A part of the community is definitely interested in occult gameplay, so the request for more types of Sims was definitely strong. Mainly, people were asking for werewolves, witches, and fairies, and with the announcement of Realm of Magic, the community was excited to discover this new occult type. But of course, this pack wouldn't be on this list if it was well received. The spellcaster weren't as interesting as the vampires, and the community did not connect with them as much. Furthermore, the gameplay isn't as interesting, as feels lackluster. Especially after a couple of months, the pack was mostly criticized by fans, and even today, it's considered as one of the more shallow packs, that much so that combined with the mermaid in Island Living not living up to expectations, it killed the hype for occult Sims for a couple of years. Discover University. Discover University isn't as unloved as other packs in this list, and its criticism has only been growing in the last few months. Released in late 2019 after 2 disappointing packs, Discover University was overall well liked by the players. The gameplay was more challenging, the idea was interesting, and the overall pack was well made. And the request for more in-depth education was definitely present online, so even if the focus of this pack was on young adults and adult Sims rather than other life stages, the Sims community felt that their requests for in-depth education and more challenging gameplay were being listened to. I believe the fact that this came out after Island Living and Realm of Magic helped the fan gloss over some of the faults in the pack. I do still think it's a great expansion pack, but I know there's a very vocal side of the community that disagrees and believes that rabbit hole classes and a few other issues didn't serve this pack right. My wedding stories. Probably the biggest and most obvious disappointment in this list is the My Wedding Stories game pack. Released in 2022 as the 11th game pack for the game, My Wedding Stories was going to fulfill the request for better, more in-depth weddings. A majority of the community had been asking for improved weddings for years, but this DLC crashed and burned from the start, riddled with controversy since the announcement, and the fact that this pack turned out to be an absolutely unplayable mess full of bugs that haven't yet been fixed completely stopped the pack's momentum in its tracks. No one's expectations got met with My Wedding Stories, and the backlash from the online community was completely justifiable. The hype and the request for better weddings died completely and were replaced by pure disappointment. High School Years. As the latest expansion pack to be released, High School Years came at the perfect time. The online community had been requesting more gameplay specifically catered to the teen life stage for a while, and the pack would fulfill this perfectly. After the first few months though, fans realized that the pack didn't live up to their expectation with some glaring issues and oversights. So, it's possible to say that a pack which at first is requested and wanted by the community, more often than not ends up being a disappointment and rarely lives up to expectation. What I realized while researching for this video is that there's the exact opposite phenomenon happening with pack releases as well. Packs that people didn't want or asked for that end up being well made and even turn into fan favorites. The main example for this is definitely Strangerville. This game pack came in right at the beginning of 2018 and its announcement wasn't well received by the fans. Some were disappointed that the team chose to focus on such a niche concept, especially since the pack would have a story element that had never been done before in a mainline Sims game. But after release, and especially through the years, I think Strangerville turned its reputation around. Today, a lot of people like the pack for its quirky gameplay, the story element, and the overall vibe, and I would consider it a fan favorite. Another pack that received the same treatment is the Paranormal Stuff pack, which wasn't met with the response it deserved until it came out and people realized how fun the gameplay is and how much stuff it adds, even if it is very specific. And more recently, Werewolves reignited the community's love for occult Sims, since only a small minority was still asking for occult-focused gameplay after the Island Living and Realm of Magic failed. sales. Even Journey to Batuu, which is arguably the most controversial pack ever released for The Sims 4, has managed to carve itself a small community of fans. The gameplay is perfectly fine for the pack's storyline and the items in it are well made. It's interesting to see that these packs that were definitely low in the community priority list of content ended up being critically well received. But what does it mean? Does the community not know what it really wants, or does EA not care for the content they release when they make something people want? I think that, apart from my wedding stories, dine out, and arguably island living, the packs that the community asked for are fine. The issue lies in the expectation the online fans set up for this pack. When something like more gameplay for teens is as requested as it was in the community before high school years, the announcement of a pack that it's supposed to fill this gap creates a lot of hype. And the hype created tends to heighten expectation from the fans. And when these expectations aren't met, the fans are justifiably angry. I'm not saying this to try and excuse the Sims team. Their content can definitely be disappointing when it doesn't work as intended, but the expectation that can build up is also why these packs all are seen as disappointments. And this happens especially online, where people talk, hype, and speculate. Another reason the packs don't live up to the hype is fake content leaks. It happened more than once that certain features were speculated to be in a pack, or that a leak predicted the overall theme to be something else. It definitely contributes to the building of expectation from the fandom, and when these aren't met, it fuels a disappointment. I think that if you were to present any of the packs I talked about to a brand new player who doesn't have any expectation and isn't hyped by speculation or fake leaks, they would find them perfectly fine, just like the majority of DLCs for the game. I also do think that, on the other hand, EA does have a history of releasing unfinished and buggy products, and this can be seen since the first Sims 4 release. It is definitely a big part of why people are disappointed in packs if they don't work as intended and are frustrating to play with. The difference is that when a pack that isn't requested is released as unpolished, people tend to forget and forgive more easily than when the same happens to a pack that they really want and ask for. So, to answer the original question, not all packs that are requested end up being disappointing, but the general issue with the EA releases being unpolished and untested, combined with the hype that builds in a community when content that the majority wants to see gets announced, is the perfect storm for disappointed fans. While EA cannot control the reaction of their fans to what they want to see in the game, I think there's still a couple solutions to at least reduce this problem. Firstly, EA should be more transparent and open with their releases and pack development, with clearer intention when the content is announced. Secondly, they need to communicate better with the community. If a fake leak gets released, they should shut it down fast, and they should explain better the features they're going to add in game, without altering trailers by adding things that won't actually be possible in the DLC they are promoting. Finally, EA should focus on polishing and testing their content way more before releasing it to the public, especially when they are working on packs that are highly requested by fans. I believe they need to figure it out as soon as possible, and I can see they are starting to work on the communication aspect at least. I'm interested to see, since we're possibly going to get a generation type pack for The Sims 4, and it's one of the most requested additions in a long time, how the public will respond to it. Will it be disappointing, or will EA be able to smooth over their faults and release a well-made, polished and finished product? What do you think? Is the disappointment from fans always justified? Does EA have the ability to completely change their model for DLC publishing? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and bye bye.